Hi, my name is Kim Irby, and I'm also on the Community Education Council for District 13, so I do work with Dr. Fenelon on my council. I actually recruited her as a charter parent because I felt that charter parents were not at the table. And what we do find that lots of times that the charter parent population are usually parents that have not experienced public school. They are usually parents that are transitioning usually from the private sector into the charter school movement. So lots of times they do not understand how the whole system works and the whole politics, behind charter school movement. We're very rare, you and I, that we are, we're public school parents. I was a former charter school parent. Biggest mistake I ever made in my life. So I definitely would advise parents that it's better to work with your neighborhood school. You have more power there than you do in your charter schools. Do not place your child's education in the hands of a lottery system. Unfortunately, those schools are not able to recruit the best teachers. They have high turnover. There's no getting around that. I've seen it in at least 3 or 4 charter schools that I've experienced myself. And as far as uncommon schools, I'm working with parents now to get their parent association up and running, and there is much resistance from that organization. So my question is to Mona, to address the issue in regard to getting more L students and special education students into charter schools. It has been my finding that they do not, because of high teacher turnover and because they cannot get better teachers, then I would not want to see charter schools with that population of students right now. I would not support that. I understand that you're trying to even out the playing field and the opportunity for those students, but it is not an opportunity. They're not getting the services, and primarily they do end up counseling those children out and those parents and saying, we really cannot help your child here. So what I would like to put forth is a change in the law where now that we have charter schools in all of our districts, that there is no need to create a situation where I'm servicing charter parents from other districts, say like in my district, 13. My question, is would you support a legislation that would require charters to now be zoned for their area? Because then they would get the neighborhood children. They would get everybody that was in the area, just like the school that they're sitting in. And then we would really see if charter schools are successful, and we would not have to force them to get the L students because they would serve. Now that we have them, would you be willing to support a push that now they would have to be zoned, and then children would have an opportunity to go to the school without a lottery system, and they would have the opportunity to see if they can serve those children?
I said,
all right, Kim.
I think Mona, you might be the one.
They're not going to like you for that one, Kim.
I know.
I think that we've gotten to the point where that is where we need to go at this point. Just given Central Brooklyn as an example, there are so many charters right now in Central Brooklyn, okay? And with the changes in the law, but even from the beginning, charters are supposed to go into neighborhoods where there's where there is a need, okay? That hasn't exactly been happening, but that was in the law from the beginning. But somehow, they circumvented that part of the law. So I think at this point, pushing for that legislation would work. I think that now, with what we've seen the past 10 years, we can definitely push for something like that. It's about time, because right now they're destabilizing communities because the school is usually the central part of their community. But with all of the kids coming from different districts and all over the city, we're losing that community. But that's what they want. They don't want that community because then we can empower each other because we know each other and we can talk to each other. So it's about time that we do push for that. And I'd be very interested to see what the charter lobby pushback to something like that would be. But now is the time to push for it.
And one more question for her, though. I'm sorry. Please.
We gotta finish up.
I know. It's quick. The other thing is, would you push for equity? That wherever there's a charter school in a public building, that whatever resources or funding is coming to the charter school, that the school be matched with the same funding opportunity.
Got it. Anybody want to talk about that? Yeah. Why don't we lift it?
Mona said yes.
Yes, we'll push for it.
Yeah, there are several organizations, as we mentioned, that are involved in action right now. And on that question, we would strongly urge that everything that can make charter schools more responsive to their communities, the physical locations that they're in, and less of some sort of an intrusive element, the better, so that those things would be supported while they're charter schools. Need I remind you that charters were originally supposed to be experimental places that were working in concert with the public schools to find successful ways of educating children, and then those successes were supposed to be translated into the broader public school population. That has not been the case for decades nationally. It's not only in New York that they have abused what the original purposes were, but especially here in New York City, that's been abused. So we would call for a use of charters that are successful to, in fact, play a role in helping to do what the public schools need to do. And those charter schools that are not successful should not continue.
As long as they get the extra funding if they're successful. So give the schools the extra funding.
And last official question here. Thank you. Good.
Hello, I want to thank you all for a wonderful discussion. I've learned so much and I'm more confused than ever. It was a great forum. My question is that last month I went to a meeting in Park Slope about Phase 1 schools and how the Department of Education now wants to push all services for students with IEPs into the school without any additional funds or money. But one of the things that was interesting at that same meeting was that they gave a statistic that of the students with IEPs, 83% of them did not pass the standardized tests in math and in language. 83%. And I know for me that if you come across a victim that's just been hit by a car, the first thing you do is you check their pulse. So at this point, if I check this population's pulse, it's barely there. It's barely there. So I'm just wondering, as a parent, as the different roles that you play, what can we do? Because the stigmatism that comes along with all of these students continually failing a system that's not there to support them, especially when there's some low-hanging fruit, some easy solutions, some best practices that can be put in place until the lawsuits and things like that are settled. So I'm looking for just some advice in terms of how do we do this and how do we just kind of get these folks to a point where they are critical as opposed to almost just out of the ball game. I mean, excuse all the metaphors, but it's just that critical for me to just hear that 83%. So there should be a sign outside every public school that says, if your child has an IEP, only 15% maybe will succeed here. All the rest of you can just go back home and watch TV. I mean, and they may do better there.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody?